Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a few minutes. We are waiting to allow everybody to get into the room. So thank you for your patience. All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon or good evening for those of you who are on the East Coast. My name is Renee Turner, and I serve as Vice Provost for Admission and Student Financial Services here at WashU, and I'm serving as your moderator for today's webinar entitled Common Ground at WashU, a Parent and Family Webinar. I am really pleased to congratulate the parents and family members who have joined us on your students' admission. And if we have any students in the audience, congratulations to you as well. Before we go any further, I'd like to start by acknowledging the indigenous culture of Missouri. Washington University and the city of St. Louis are located on the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Osage Nation, the Missouri and Illini Confederacy. We honor them as we live, work, and study at WashU. I'd also like to acknowledge the extraordinary circumstances that we find ourselves in together. At WashU, we know community is really important, and that community extends to our admitted students and their families. And I hope that you and your family are doing well during this time. And I hope you know that all of us in the admissions office and across the university are thinking of you and are here to support you through this process. We are so excited that you have chosen to join us for this afternoon's webinar. This is going to be a wonderful conversation. I am joined by four of my fantastic campus colleagues, Dr. Harvey Fields, Dr. Mark Kamimura Jimenez, Dr. Ignacio Sanchez Prado, Ms. Val Jensen, Dr. Yewande Alimi. During the conversation tonight, we hope that you will have plenty of questions for us, and you can submit messages and questions to us using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We have two of our admission staff members who are here. They'll be working to answer some questions, but they'll also help us get to your questions live during the webinar. If for some reason we don't get to your question and you have additional questions beyond what we're able to get to this afternoon, I hope you'll be sure to reach out to us. We want to make sure that we give you all of the information that you need as you make the important decision about where your student will enroll and spend the next 4 years of their life. So with that, I'd like to have our panelists introduce themselves. So would you please share your name, your title, hometown, and how long you have been at WashU? Got that? So Harvey, would you please start us off?
Sure. Good day, everybody that is joining us, and thank you so very much for the opportunity to be here today, Renee. My name is Harvey Fields, or Dr. Harvey Fields. I am originally from Augusta, Georgia. My role and title are Associate Dean for Student Success in the Office for Student Success here at Washington University in St. Louis. And in terms of my time at the university, I earned my doctoral degree in chemistry here at WashU. And most people include that time when they talk about how long I've been here. So when you add those years in as well, I have been at Washington University in St. Louis for over 23 years.
Thank you, Harvey. Mark, would you go next?
Hello, everybody. I am originally from Southern California, from Lomita, California, and I have been at WashU for just over a year now. So like many of our entering students, not much time on campus, but I served the campus in this role as the Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Dean of the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. Happy to be here tonight.
Thank you, Mark. Ignacio, but I didn't say your your casual name. Sorry, your nickname.
Yeah, so I'm Ignacio Sanchez Prado, but I go by Nacho, which is short for Ignacio. I'm originally from Mexico City. I came to the US for graduate school at the University of Pittsburgh back in the day, like in 2001, which was a very interesting moment to come in. And then I came to Washington University in 2006. I have a very long title that I won't repeating here, but I'm a professor in Spanish and in Latin American Studies. And I'm also leading an effort from the Dean of Arts and Sciences Office on intercultural competence and intercultural education.
Thank you, Nacho. Yewande.
Hi everyone, I'm Yewande Alimi. I am originally from Lagos, Nigeria, and grew up in a rural suburb of Tampa, Florida. I attended Washington University in 2005 to 2009, where I obtained my engineering degree in biomedical engineering in the now McKelvey School of Engineering. I'm currently the minimally invasive surgery and bariatrics fellow at Stanford University, and will start my first attending job at Georgetown University Hospital in DC in the fall.
Wow, you're moving coast, huh? That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Val, do you want to go?
Yeah, good afternoon. I am Valerie Jensen. I am the Deputy Director of Student Financial Services at Washington University. I am originally from St. Louis, so born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. I currently live on the other side of the river now in Illinois, but it's still all one great big metro area. I have been with WashU for about 3.5 years and have been working in higher education in the world of both financial aid and admissions for about 20 years now at this point.
Thank you, Val. So as we look forward to telling you more about WashU, I know many of you have questions about affordability, financial aid, and support for students once they are here. So I'm going to ask Val to please tell our families more about need-based aid and as well as scholarship and grant aid.
Yes, thanks, Renee. I'm really excited to kind of highlight some different things. I mentioned I've been in higher ed for a number of years, and I am very proud to work at Washington University and to represent Student Financial Services because we have some really great things going on, and I want to highlight a few of those things for you all today. So at WashU, we meet 100% of demonstrated financial need for our admitted students. We do that by using the information that's provided on the FAFSA and the CSS profile in order to determine what a student's need is. And then we use that information to create a financial assistance offer to fit that need. A financial assistance offer may be comprised of scholarships, grants, federal work study, and federal loans. For families that are earning $75,000 or less, we are able to offer no loan awards that replace the federal loans with additional scholarship. 2 years ago, we launched our first year grant program, which provides startup grants to incoming students that are eligible for a federal Pell Grant or whose families make $75,000 or less. The startup grant is $1,500 that's awarded to incoming students, and the students will receive half of that amount in the fall semester and the other half in the spring semester. $500 is refunded directly to the student each semester and can be used for any needs that are related to starting as a student at WashU. Some examples might be warmer clothing for those colder St. Louis winters, or bed sheets for those extra long twin beds in the residence halls. On top of that $500 provided directly to the students, there will be a $250 bookstore credit each semester that students can then use towards supplies and books in the campus bookstore. WashU also offers a technology grant to any incoming student that's receiving need-based financial aid. The technology grant is $1,115, and that's to be used toward the purchase of a computer through our bookstore. This amount has been determined to cover a laptop that would meet the minimum requirements set forth by the different divisions on our campus. And another great thing that I just want to point out about Student Financial Services and WashU as a whole is our ability to be responsive to changing family financial circumstances. we know that many things can happen that impact your ability to be able to pay. I think this last year is a great example of, some unknown things that can happen out of the blue. And SFS will work with you to make sure that we understand the changes that have happened and that we can make appropriate adjustments to the financial aid award that your student is receiving. And finally, each student is assigned a student financial services counselor who will remain with the student for all 4 years. So this counselor is the student's point of contact for any questions, any concerns that a student might have, that the family might have, and this would be the person that you would be able to work with should your circumstances change.
Thank you, Val. And I just want to reiterate that admitted students who have applied for financial aid and who have received an offer on your admissions pathway portal, as you're looking at your financial aid award, the name of your financial aid officer is readily available. So it's really important for you to reach out and make that connection if you have any questions. Don't be shy. That's really important. Don't be shy. So thank you again, Val. So I know one of the things I hear frequently from students is how welcomed they feel when they start at WashU and how much they appreciate the thoughtfulness as well as the hands-on approach that our advisors and others make helping students transition to the university. So Harvey, would you please tell us about the supports beyond financial aid students should expect once they arrive on campus?
Sure, thank you for that question. Washington University St. Louis really stands in a very special place in terms of having the ability to wrap its arms totally around the student and provide them access to so many of the resources that would help make their experience at Washington University in St. Louis a full, fulfilling, enriching, and engaging experience at the university. So from the time that they enter the university, they have the opportunity to access different types of resources, such as student groups that are on campus, such as the advising that is involved, but also the communities that are made available for all of our students. One example of those communities is the Janelle STARS community. STARS stands for Sustaining Talented, Academically Recognized Students, but it's one of those communities that allows students to come in and become a part of the network and the fabric of what it means to be Washington University in St. Louis. I named that one community, but there are multiple communities that students can become a part of and that they can engage with that allow them to, again, learn and understand best how to navigate this time in their lives at Washington University as students. They also have access to resources such as the Learning Center, which provides, in conjunction with the academic departments, some holistic academic supports to not just help students, quote unquote, who may need academic help, but importantly, to help students understand how to excel in all of the work that they are doing and how to really ingrain the knowledge that is being provided to them in ways that better equip them for the future courses that they would take and for what will happen beyond Washington University in St. Louis. The Learning Center provides support in many of the academic coursework areas that they will be involved with. And it provides these resources primarily through other students that have already had the experience of being in the classes, that have obtained good grades in the classes, and that have been recognized by the faculty and importantly by other students as being capable of being able to share their knowledge and their learning with others. In addition to the Learning Center, we have the Writing Center, which provides resources for those who are writing. And the Writing Center likes to say they provide support for writing at every stage of the writing process. Whether a student is still formulating an idea about what to write about or just trying to understand a prompt, or whether they're at the final stages and they simply want to have the ideas and the thoughts and the continuity of what it is that they produced, evaluated, and assessed, the Writing Center is prepared to help them and to give them the opportunity to have another eye that can look at their work. The Writing Center is linked into, again, many of the faculty and departments across the campus. And so when they give their input, they're giving input from a very knowledgeable perspective and background, and they're very flexible to work with students. And so again, that's another example of supports and structures that students can have access to as they navigate Washington University in St. Louis. They are of course, all of the student groups, et cetera. Those are examples of some of the ways in which students can come to Washington University in St. Louis and get connected. I will say that, I will say about some of the academic resources, not only are they provided by the departments and the centers that produce them, but they do so in conjunction with the academic departments. That's a very important distinction. At some institutions, these are standalone enterprises, if you will. But at Washington University in St. Louis, they were created with input from and sometimes even by certain members of the faculty, but they also remain in contact with members of the faculty, and faculty are part of the process of identifying the resources that provide the services and vetting those resources, and then participating in making sure their credentials are solid throughout the time that they serve in those particular roles, so that they can be closely connected to the class, so that what they share and what they provide in terms of information and support is aligned with what the actual course is doing. And that can be critical when different professors teach classes or when the curriculum in a particular department may change. But those are examples of some of the resources, primarily from an academic side, that can be provided for the students when they come into Washington University in St. Louis.
Thank you, Harvey. I hope that we will have some questions from the audience so that you can talk a little bit more about the wonderful ways that we support students. So now I have a question for Mark. Mark, would you share more about how your office and the others that you supervise in your office, or areas such as religious life, how those areas support students and their self-advocacy?
Sure, thank you. So at the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, we have had many conversations with students about the direction in which we needed to take our work. We're a newer center on campus, just celebrated our 5th year last year. And in our work, what we found is that there are 3 major themes that really impact the student experience. And the first is identity and intersectionality, that our students are coming to college and learning more about who they are. They're also learning history that they had not learned about in school. They're engaged with students from experiences all over the country, students who may look like them, but had different experiences growing up. They have different backgrounds, and that we support their own identity development. The intersectionality piece is just that students come with different experiences, and that they may have different minoritized experiences, and that those intersections create challenges that and opportunities for us to work with our students in a number of different ways. And that leads us to the second theme, which is education and training, and that we believe that our students are learning outside the classroom as much as they learn inside, and from each other, and also from experts and colleagues from around the country who participate in panels or in workshops within our office. And that once students learn more about different areas of DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's an acronym that's often used on our campus, that they also want to be involved. These are who our students are. They want to make a difference. And so we provide training opportunities for students to learn more through workshops, also train the trainer opportunities so that they can become leaders in both their peer student communities and also in the St. Louis community. The third theme revolves around advocacy and policy. Our students advocate on behalf of themselves and their students and their student peers and those in our community in so many different ways. I think that our students, they understand the impact and power that they have as a student on our campus to facilitate change. And our job has been to support their voices in this work. And so a lot of times that means that we need to look at different policies on our campus and how we can shift those. And so we become a liaison within our institution between our students and our administration. In our area, we also have the Office of Religious, Spiritual, and Ethical Life, and that has provided us some unique opportunities to support our students in their faith journey, but also within understanding the importance of having different connections around their both their spiritual and ethical well-being as well. This, I can talk a little bit about this probably in a little bit, but we've had some really cool opportunities to support programs and fellowships for students to engage within the campus, to think differently about how we set up spaces, how we continue, especially in the pandemic, to support holidays and celebrate different important events that each of our faith communities celebrate, and how can we become more of an inclusive space, not just as a campus, but also in our classrooms as well. So I'll leave it there, and I'm sure there's gonna be some other questions, and I can highlight some of the other things that we do then.
Thank you, Mark. So Nacho, would you please speak a little bit about the undergraduate experience? You're a faculty member, but you also serve as an advisor. You support a lot of students, particularly first generation students. So how do you and other faculty connect with students in and outside the classroom to enhance the WashU experience?
So I will say that Washington University is in the sweet spot between what different kinds of universities have to offer in academics. We are a very top-level research university. Those of us in the faculty have to be very well renowned in our fields just to stay at our job. Many of us have books published, won awards. And the one thing that I'd like to note to many students, because I don't think people know this in the application process, is I have a very high rank in the faculty, and professors like me in other universities would not teach undergraduate students, or you would only get as a student to them in the last years. My equivalents in other universities wouldn't be in this event. Many of them are more focused on graduate education rather than undergraduate. And here at Washington University, I teach a first year class every year. You will have contact with all of the excellent top level faculty throughout your time here. We do not rely heavily on part-time teachers. We do not rely heavily on graduate students. There's only a few classes here and there that are covered in this way, but the vast majority of the people that you will teach you are full-time professors. And this is actually remarkable, because the other thing is the class sizes are small. So the opportunities to work one-on-one with professors, get mentoring, get support are much higher. If you look at even Spanish language classes, which are the ones that I oversaw them for many years, we have a cap in those classes for 12 students. In most public universities, those caps would be around 25. So we teach language classes at half the enrollment of the average in many other institutions. And those are things that you will not find in other places. The faculty here is very committed to the success of students. We advocate for them. We're in contact all the time. I actually was just emailing with other colleagues. We have in our class a student that is struggling, and we're coordinating to see how we can best support her through her challenges. And again, in many places that do research like WashU, professors are even offered to not have a close relationship with students as a perk, but in here we really believe that the undergraduate students are at the center of the institution, and the faculty members should work with the students closely. As far as the question of diversity, I think that we have seen a growth in the diversity of the faculty over many years. There's a lot of African American, Latinx, Asian American, native professors who are being hired, and we have a process of hiring 24 new professors through cluster hires on race and on digital transformation that are going to further diversify the faculty. So I think that people who come from all kinds of underrepresented backgrounds will have curricular offerings to understand their heritage and their culture, as well as faculty members that they can look up to from their different social backgrounds. And, I'm Mexican, I work very, very closely with Latin American and Latinx students. Some of them I have mentored them 5, 6, 7 years after they graduated. I continue to be in touch with them. And this is really what you have to offer. You have the kinds of professors you would get in the research universities, the personal engagement that you would get in a small college together in a single institution.
Well, Nacho, thank you so much. I love the way that you described how our faculty and students engage, and that's also one of the reasons why I love being at WashU. So in just a moment, we are going to transition to Q&A with our panelists. So if you haven't already, please feel free to submit your questions for our panelists in the Q&A box. But now we get to hear from Yewande. Would you please speak with us a little bit about your undergraduate experience and how WashU has prepared you for success as a graduate? You are really, doing some wonderful things out there, and love to hear more about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that a lot of the speakers before me have highlighted so many of the resources that I used when I was an undergraduate on campus. And I know that a lot of that has been, continued to be built out. But as an undergraduate, I got to take advantage of so many opportunities. And I think that what Washington University did really well, and I'll talk a little bit about that in regards to my experience, is that they are really a triple threat. They're an institution that does scholarship well, that does mentorship well, and that does community building well. I came from a rural town in Florida, and I got on campus and I immediately felt at home. I was an Urban Scholar on campus, and for those who don't know, the Urban Scholarship Program is now under the Office of Scholar Programs, but it was a community that I got to be a part of from the moment I hit ground on campus. But even outside of that community of scholars, I was involved in the student government, which at WashU we call Student Union. And through that organization, I got to also establish a even bigger community of people by working with multiple organizations and student groups and people that were involved on campus. And as an engineer on campus who was interested in medicine and hoping to go to medical school, I sort of straddled the arts and sciences as well as the School of Engineering. And I had opportunities to work with, well-renowned faculty, but also when I was struggling or when I was thriving, there were people who were there to help me. I think that WashU does well as making sure that the students who are struggling are doing well, but also who are thriving. And so, I use resources in the Learning Center, which I think used to be called Cornerstone, but, I had a tutor, I had a study group, I had all of these resources that helped me to continue to do well. And especially when I wasn't doing well, in a class, I had people to help me in that situation as well. And I say all of this to mean that, I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing now in my career. And, college wasn't 100% for me. I got a bad grade in a class and I needed to find resources to help me. People in the Urban Scholar Program helped me find that. They guided me to the right place. My colleagues and my peers in my classes who had used resources before also helped me to find those resources as well. And so I think that my undergraduate experience at WashU helped prepare me to be what now I'm about to be attending faculty who's doing surgeries, exactly the thing that I imagined myself doing when I started college, even though I thought I was going to be an OBGYN, but now I'm a general surgeon. That's a whole nother story. But I think that what Washington University did really well was providing all of those resources at the times when I needed them. And they were always there for me to reach out to. And if people saw that I was struggling, like Laura Stevenson, I remember, who was a part of the Urban Scholar Program at the time, I got a bad grade in the class, and, that was sort of a little abnormal for me, I would say. And, I think that sometimes for many of you, the people who are coming to campus, you guys have always thrived. You've always done really well. And sometimes when you get to college, there's going to be a class that doesn't go as you expected it to go. And sometimes it's hard to ask for help. And there are people who are at WashU who are actually invested in you as an individual. Like, you don't get lost in the shuffle here. And I think that that's what was really important, that somebody was like, hey, I saw that, and they were like, hey, these are the resources that you can use to either help you in this class, or, what's going on? Is there something going on outside of school and things like that? And so I think that, through my work study, I ended up working in a lab at the School of Medicine. Through that, I ended up applying for an NIH grant and, got to do research, and I'm still doing research to this day. Through my student union involvement, I got involved with other organizations and was doing things within the community of St. Louis. I worked with Engineers Without Borders and Habitat for Humanity. And so all of these things were at arm's reach for me. And I think that that's what Washington University does well. As I've mentioned, there's opportunities for mentorship, there's opportunities for ongoing scholarship, and really at the core of it all, and what I tell people, you know, I've been at 3 different institutions now where I've gotten to see undergraduate students as well as graduate students, but what WashU does really well is establishing community. And I wouldn't have made my decision any differently. I'm so glad I saw the brochure when I was a junior in high school and found my way to WashU. You know, I came to WashU both on a merit scholarship, but I had some financial aid as well. And I think that, you know, it was probably the best decision that I've made in my life. So I'm super thankful for the university. I'm happy to answer any questions about sort of my pathway, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Yewande. I love to hear from WashU alums, our students, our faculty, our staff. This is just a wonderful, caring community, and it's just so exciting to hear how our alums, our students have spent their time, and to see all that they've accomplished as they've gone on. So just really, really exciting. I hope that you all enjoyed that part. So now it is your turn. Many of you have put some questions in the chat, and I'm going to do my best to try to get to as many of them as we can. So let's go back to financial aid. Val, there are a couple of questions about financial aid. The first one is, do students / families apply for financial aid and scholarships every year? And then the second question is, what is the financial support for incoming students who had a parent who lost a job?
Okay, thank you. So I will address the first question with respect to applying each year. You do need, if you're receiving need-based financial aid from WashU, you do need to apply each year by filling out the FAFSA. So as an incoming student, you did need to fill out the FAFSA and the CSS profile. We will continue to collect a new FAFSA from you each year moving forward in order to renew your need-based financial assistance. Scholarships, you do not need to reapply for on an annual basis. Those will renew for you each year. And then with the second question, the financial support for a new incoming student whose parent recently lost a job, I think that's a great question, and kind of goes to what I was speaking to earlier about our ability to be responsive to changing circumstances. So it isn't an easy thing to tell you exactly what the support would look like, but what I can tell you is that you should absolutely reach out to your student financial services counselor to begin a conversation with them about that change. And what we would do is we would collect some information from you regarding the financial impact, and we would look to see what additional financial assistance we would be able to offer as a result of that changing income. And so please do reach out if it's a job loss, if there's anything that's impacting the ability to pay. That's what our office is there to work with you and to evaluate along with you.
Thanks, Val. The next question is for Harvey. Harvey, would you talk a little bit more about tutoring services that are available for students?
Sure, I'd be glad to. And so one of the things I want to start out with is in talking about Washington University and our approach and our understanding about providing the academic services and supports for our students, is that in many of our areas, we use the term academic mentoring, if you will, as opposed to tutoring. We believe that the students that are admitted into Washington University in St. Louis are highly talented, capable students, and that what they need to do is to be supported and coached and mentored towards them being able to realize their full potential. So we tend to call a lot of the work that falls into this area academic mentoring. It's not that the term tutoring is not used, it's just that we're trying to be intentional about communicating what we believe about the talents of our students. And so there actually are multiple number of ways students can get the academic supports they need. There's, first of all, and I want to thank Nacho for talking about the commitment of the faculty to the students, their engagement in teaching, but they're also engagement in the individual student's success. And so they have office hours, and they also have assistants to the instructor who maintain office hours. And faculty make themselves available so that students can come to them directly and ask questions and learn. They have help sessions where they share with students ways to think about the material, ways to approach learning the material, ways to approach problem solving, where problem solving is an appropriate part of what it is that the student is doing, ways to think about and communicate with those who are in classes where writing is important about the material that is being, of course, provided. So there is the whole level of support provided by the courses themselves. The other things that we do are provide what I call complementary and supplementary support. They're done in conjunction with the faculty and with the departments and with the divisions so that everyone is aligned, but they are provided through different services. And so that's when I mentioned the Learning Center and I mentioned the Writing Center, and they hire undergraduate students and some graduate students who again are vetted by faculty as appropriately, and into roles where they provide that either group level and or individual academic mentoring. For certain classes such as chemistry, physics, calculus, there is an initiative called peer-led team learning. And in peer-led team learning, students come together in small groups and are led by an upper class student who's been through a similar group and been through a training class to facilitate those groups in learning how to think about the material that they are learning. They're given problem sets that have been designed in conjunction with the faculty or even by the faculty that helps them work through how to apply the material that they are learning. And it also helps prepare them for the quizzes and the exams that they will have. But it would also allow them to go deeper into the material so that they can learn more. So that's peer-led team learning. And that's out of the Learning Center. Another initiative out of the Learning Center is called the Residential Peer Mentor. So the students who live in the residential spaces on campus have people who have been qualified and trained similar to the PLTL leaders, but who live in a residence community and have office hours in the residential community where the students live, so that they don't have to walk across campus to another classroom or to another spot. They can just simply go amongst the residential colleges and connect with individuals whose hours are posted, and as well as communicate online and ask them questions. The Writing Center is very similar. They have hours that students can sign up for so that they can get those appointments to have time one-on-one with, again, a person who has been through a training course in order to be, and they do use the term tutor, to be a peer tutor and a writing tutor, and they help them with the work that they are producing. And I did mention that they work at every stage of the writing process. They not only work with undergraduate students, they work with graduate students, and they work with faculty, and they'll work with people writing dissertations and people writing grants. But they make themselves available as well, and importantly and primarily for those undergraduate students who are completing their writing projects. And they work in tandem with the writing program here at Washington University in St. Louis. Some of them even teach in the writing program. That's how closely aligned that they are. So that's a second level, if you will, or second tier of support. And Yewande did mention Cornerstone. Cornerstone used to be where that support was located, but we have done some realignment. It's now part of the Center for Teaching and Learning, the CTL, the Center for Teaching and Learning. That's what the Learning Center now is. And we're very excited about the fact that it will give it an expanded platform upon which to do its work. Also, some of the communities that exist on campus have initiatives within their communities that supplement what goes on. We know that sometimes when students are in a given community, encouragement from that community helps them connect to these resources even better. So for example, within the Deneb Stars community where I currently work, we have some initiatives where we have within the Deneb Stars community students who volunteer. We call them Hubs leaders. We can talk about what Hubs means at another time, who volunteer to be available so that if any student within our community has a question about academic supports, resources, etc., they are available to answer those questions. In some cases, they will provide support, but in all cases, they will connect them to the supports that already exist so that we can have this holistic wraparound network of services that are available for the students. So that's just a sampling of some of the things that are available from an academic perspective to help the students do their work. But I want to emphasize it's a combination of faculty, the assistants to the instructors that may be used, upper level students who may also be associated in these kinds of academic support roles with those courses. Then that's the levels provided by the centers on campus that provide these academic mentoring services. And then there are the services that are provided within communities, and those services are aligned, but also coordinating to help get students connected to what is available for them.
Thank you, Harvey. Appreciate that. So there are lots of questions that are coming in the chat. I'm going to try to get through as many as we can. The first one that I would like to ask is Yewande. I'd love it if you would take the lead on this because you mentioned research, but how easy is it to get a research opportunity as a first-year student? And if there are others that want to jump in after you finish, that would be great.
So I started embarking on research as a second-year student just because I thought that it would work better with my schedule. As a first year sort of landing on campus, it's a lot to sort of take in, getting used to, going to classes and things like that. But in regards with engaging and sort of finding research, there's so many opportunities because of our close connection with the School of Medicine. So if you're interested in biomedical science research, there are opportunities. Essentially, I basically let my mentor know that I was interested in working in a lab because I knew that I wanted to go to medical school and I was interested in the biomedical sciences. They got me in touch with some mentors within the School of Medicine. I sent a couple of emails, and through those connections, I established inroads with Dr. Colin Nichols, who ended up being the lab that I was in. And I stayed in that lab for 2.5 years, actually. And subsequently, as I mentioned, I got a grant to stay there for the additional year to have basically support over the summers for a full-time salary. So is it easy? It just requires a little bit of work, meaning talking to people, sending out a couple of emails, and there's, I believe, like a resource of people who have put out like, hey, like we need some people to help with the lab to do like basically like bench work and opportunities. Obviously, I'm sure a little bit of that has changed, but for me and my colleagues who were sort of in my time period, it was, if you had an interest in it, there were many opportunities within the lab. And I think that that's the benefit of being associated with a pretty robust research medical institution, particularly for people who are interested in biomedical sciences.
Renee, if I may, I'd like to piggyback on that as well and add a few.
Briefly.
Sure, briefly, a few things. Yewande was talking about the time frame in which she was there, but yes, some things have changed. We have an office for undergraduate research, and the Office for Undergraduate Research is growing, but they are a network that allows students to learn more about what research opportunities exist on campus and then get connected to those research opportunities. I talked about some of the communities that exist. And so briefly, I'll mention, I actually was the person who had the privilege of being the individual who created what used to be called academic programs, now called the Learning Center. And I used to work in what was called Cornerstone. So, we've had that privilege of helping start some of these things. Well, right now we're doing similar things and then the Nev Stars community, where we have a network of research opportunities. We have one that we're doing through work study. We call it the Meaningful Work Study Initiative, where we're getting students connected to research and other opportunities by utilizing their work study funds. And so that's starting to grow. We were kind of interrupted recently because of some of the events that were going on around the world, but we're going to reconvene and recoalesce and get that going again. We have a partnership with a professor in biology called the Biology Team Learning Partnership, where a faculty member in biology takes students as first-year students and mentors them for 2 years and gets them connected to research. Another biology faculty member is, and I have just finished a proposal that's called Enter Engaging Trainees in Early Research. We're going to be launching that this coming fall, targeting first-year students who have work study. We have another we have this grant called the Missouri Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation, which targets students that come from first-gen low-income backgrounds, as well as underrepresented groups. And we have a network of faculty across the university in all schools, in all 4 schools, that are now working with us. And we are connected, have identified some of the faculty, starting to figure out how to work together. And we're starting to connect students. We already have 10 students connected and doing research. And we have an umbrella term for all of this now. We just simply call it, the Guild, to get to guided undergraduate intensive learning development. So through this Guild, we have Enter and BTLP and the MOELSAT work. And then we've been contacted by people over at the medical school for people to help them create a pathway for people who might be interested in neurofibromatosis research. So, and again, targeting first and second year students to get them engaged and involved at an early stage. So we have a lot of initiatives that are starting to be put together. I'm excited about them, and we'll continue to be working on them. And while I'm in the Office for Student Success, and yes, we're creating them because we want to connect students in the Office for Student Success who come from those backgrounds. Every time we work with a faculty member, we make it aware to them that we want this to be something that's available for the whole campus. So thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Harvey. I think it's really important for folks to understand that that Harvey and his team, they're doing a lot of work to expand opportunities for students in their program. But as Yewande said, research was she had the opportunity, she made those connections. We have the undergraduate research office. And one of the things that I think is really important for students to remember is that research is in every single academic area of interest that you may have. So it's not just in the natural or the physical or engineering sciences, it's in the humanities and the social sciences. And they're wonderful opportunities for you to connect with faculty to sometimes there are students who raise their hand and they go, and then there are students who sometimes just need support to get them connected. And so we are able at WashU to work with both types of students. So there's a really important question that I would like to get the panel to address. And maybe we would start with Mark and Nacho, but I'm going to read the question. How does the WashU community support the transition for students, particularly students of color? Last year was extremely rough for America, especially for people of color. What was WashU's response during the racial unrest, and how is WashU maintaining that support as a school?
Sure, I can start. I think it was hard for all of us, those of us on this call as well. So I appreciate that question. I think what was difficult about the last year is that it's not over, and it unfortunately continues to impact our community. And each of us dealing with the impact that it has on each of our communities as the year has progressed has really showed the deep issues that our country has had to face, but also our campus has had to address. And so, it doesn't start or stop with a program or an individual. It includes all of us. And so we've had to take an institutional response to thinking deeply about how we want to create spaces that are actually meaningful to our students and to the broader community. We can't just address the student needs. We have to address both the faculty needs, the staff needs, and the institutional community of color on our campus. Because we serve the students that are going to come to us. We are also one community who is a generation or two behind you, or ahead of you, I should say, and that it's our job to continue to create the space that is inclusive of your experience, because we've experienced it ourselves already. One of the big things that WashU did was also create an Equity and Inclusion Council, which is representative of so many different community spaces and identities across the university. And it's probably one of the most comprehensive approaches to a council of its type. And a lot of institutions have these, but they don't look like the way in which we've constructed ours. And I think that speaks to the care and the name and story mantra that we talk about, that we want to make sure that we're including in the way we take action these unique experiences, the narratives and the counter narratives of our students and our campus. One of the hardest things I think we had to face was the fact that as all the work that we have done, we still have more work to do, and that even the hours we can work. Those of us who were working on this and continue to work on this, there's no end to our work at this moment. We are committed to the point at which our families sometimes are like, so my son asked me, so do you have work today and it's Saturday? Do you have work today and it's Sunday? But our students experience the campus 7 days, 24 hours a week. And that's our commitment. And that is what we can offer that's uniquely different in our response. And that students will text me, they will they'll email me, and that I'm available to them, even if it's at 10 at night, 9 at night, 8 in the morning, on the weekends. And that's how I feel like we've created a community of response that really is a community of care. And so, there's a lot of other things I think that we're doing that are important, not just on our campus, but also in St. Louis, and how we connect both our purpose here as an institution to our students in the future that you will have once you leave this place, but also the impact that we have in this place as a part of the St. Louis community.
Nacho, would you add your perspective?
Yes, I mean, I have been a professor here through the financial crisis of 2009, through Ferguson, through the last summer, now a pandemic. I'm sure there's gonna be other things. I think that what I would add to what Mark says is that the academic structure really does very well in helping students think through these issues, not only because of the support that professors provide in difficult moments, and as I said before, we're very committed to that. But if you look, we have a digest where the citations in the press from the faculty at Washington University shows up, and you will see that every day the faculty here is being called to speak about Black Lives Matter, to speak about the pandemic, to speak about immigration issues and in the immigration crisis, to speak about different kinds of social challenges, long-term, short-term. And the curriculum is built in part around those kinds of timely issues, and the faculty are experts in these issues. And I think that one of the things that I would always love for our students and our parents to know more is that when you take classes, when you talk to the faculty, when you listen to the talks that we bring into the campus of experts nationwide, you actually have another way to be supported and to deal with these things by learning to think about them in an educated and a critical way. And I just want to say, because there's a question on the side that's very specific to this. Somebody's asking if a Mexican student can talk to me, even if they're not a Spanish and a Latin American studies major, and the answer is yes. I think that the faculty who come from all the variety of underrepresented backgrounds, whether it's racial, national, or even economic, right? I'm not only just Mexican, I'm also a first generation student. My mother only finished elementary school. We are very happy to support students who see any kind of identification in our identities and experiences. And that is one of the wealths of the university, because the degree of contact that faculty have with undergraduate students, which is unusual, allows the students also to come to relate to us more closely. One of the things that is true is we have more time for students because we're encouraged to spend, to talk to our undergraduates as faculty members. And I will insist that this is not something that you will see even at universities similar to us, because sometimes professors are isolated from students in order to pursue the research. This is not something that happens at Washington University.
Thank you, Nacho, and I'm glad you added that question because I was going to ask it immediately afterwards as well. So Mark, here's a question that I'd like you to answer. What was the engagement with clubs and extracurricular activities? What did that look like during COVID? And what do you think activities will look like in this fall as we welcome students back to campus?
So that was hard. I mean, our university really thrives on our connection to our students and those daily interactions. And I talked a lot about this with our students and in our virtual environments of, I miss that pre-meeting and after meeting, or, the side chats, the walking across campus and seeing each other, getting able to stop each other and getting that, the extra question answer, or just talking about life. And I think the ways in which we've supported students through the pandemic, and I hope that we're on the light is at the end of the tunnel here, that we're able to really provide them the support that they need to thrive. And that's how they connect with each other, giving those resources that they need to do their events, move on initiatives that they have. But also, I think that we're looking at a unique fall. I've been thinking about this for specifically looking at our students of color, that we're going to have students who didn't really get the same kind of fall welcome, if you orientation, but we're looking at bringing these two groups, both the second year will to be sophomores and our first years in the same spaces. And I think that's going to be really cool because you're going to have this much bigger group of students to connect with. And a lot of students are going to be looking to kind of create community, but it's going to be a bigger space for our students of color in particular to find each other. And I'm excited about that and about the things that our students are going to be able to do as a group together once they get back.
Yes, I'm really excited about our students getting back and for the fall to bring us all together in a different way. That'll be really exciting. So I am really conscious of time. There's one question here that I'm going to answer really quickly, and it is, how easy is it to change majors within the same school or across school? Is there limited accessibility to switch? It is very easy to change your major across the university. We have many students who will have a major or a minor or a concentration in another area of the university, in another academic division of the university. It is something that you would speak with your academic advisor about, and they would help you and walk through the steps. It's very, very easy. One of the things that WashU is known for is our flexibility. So we are like almost out of time, and there's one question that I'm going to try to get our panelists to answer quickly if they can. What is one thing about WashU that you would like to share with our families as we close out?
Okay, so I'll take that one first. And because this is something I always want to tell parents. I think that one of the ways in which the students underutilize the university is to not engage in all the, to not understand the different options that the university offers. In the case of academics, we have a lot of students and many in the audience who are coming to study business or medicine. They're looking to have a career, which is great. But some of the most fulfilling students that students have, and particularly students from underrepresented and non-traditional backgrounds, is to study the things they didn't even know existed before. We have great programs in areas that I know that many of my freshmen don't know exist: Latin American studies, Asian studies, film and media studies, women and gender studies. And I also know that many parents, probably some in the audience, are hesitant to allow their students to pursue these fields because they feel they would detract from their professional formation. But this is actually not true. All of these fields make a more holistic experience of college for the students, allow students to be more attuned to present concerns, and then they also become valuable skills later, because if you look at the way medical school admissions work, for example, having this kind of wide cultural view is important. So all of this, and this is not only the ones that relate to studies, there's ways to study math, ways to study science, ways to study health that are non-traditional and our university offers. So what I would say is, if you want to have the best experience possible, learn about all the programs. If you're a student, find the ones that call you. And if you are the parent, do not prejudge a program, and allow your student to take advantage for the university, and you will see that the experience and the outcomes are going to be much better on the other side.
Yewande.
Sorry, I was answering some questions in the chat area. So I think that, you know, I probably highlighted it a little bit earlier, but the one thing about Washington University and that I think that you guys should think about is really the community that you get to be a part of, and that WashU really, really strives to make sure that is well cultivated. I think that, you know, I went to medical school at Emory. I went to residency at Georgetown, and I've been at multiple institutions. And I think that the community that I was able to cultivate and build here is second to none. You know, the people that I still talk to day to day were, you know, my urban scholar friends, my friends that were in my freshman dorm, my co-ra when I was a resident advisor, my student union community. And I think that, you know, an institution that thinks that it focuses and really puts an importance on sort of establishing community is, I think, a place that I would want to go to as a undergraduate student. And so I think that that's probably one of the things that I would highlight the most. I mean, many institutions are going to provide you with, good education and whatnot, but I think that being able to do it at a place where it can be fun, it can be meaningful, is really important. So.
Mark, do you want to add anything?
Just that the large number of the alum that I have known from WashU are all students of color, and because we went to grad school together, and WashU is the best. I mean, they love it, and I get it because now I'm part of it, and it's a family, and there's just something special about the way in which we care about the story and the narrative of your experience, and that makes WashU a special place.
Val?
I think what I love the most has been highlighted kind of throughout the course of our conversation today, and that's just the student-centered nature of the institution. I feel like decisions are made, and we're always looking at all the things we do with the students' interest at heart, and that plays out in so many different and really fantastic ways across campus. And I love to be a part of that.
Thanks, Val. And finally, Harvey.
Sure. What I think makes Washington University so special is that Washington University in St. Louis centers, as so many of the others have said, centers the undergraduate student experience. It's almost as if structures are built around ensuring that never ever gets overlooked. It is a hallmark of our institution and a hallmark of our approach and our process. And in fact, I've had the privilege of sometimes being at another academic institution, doing a presentation or talking or whatever, and I'll have alums from Washington University find out that I was there, come and talk with me. And one of the things they consistently say is that they took for granted just how much they had at Washington University in St. Louis while they were here. No matter how engaged they were, and some of them were very engaged, no matter how engaged they were, they still said they took for granted what was available for them at Washington University in St. Louis. And so we hope you'll encourage your students to come here, and then you'll encourage them to take advantage of everything that we have. They have to work harder, if you will. I hope Ronnie won't be able to hear for this. They have to work harder to fail at Washington University St. Louis than they have to work to be successful, because we have so many supports that are here just for them. We center the undergraduate student experience.
Thank you very much. I want to thank our panelists, Mark, Harvey, Ignacio, Yewande, and Val. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know what you all demonstrated, what is really important to me about WashU, and that is the people. Whether you are a student, a faculty member, or a staff person, the people in this community really care, and that is one of the reasons why I love being here and working here. So for our participants, I hope that you really enjoyed hearing from our panelists and getting to know a little bit more about WashU. If you have questions that we were not able to answer either in the Q&A or live during the presentation, please feel free to email us. We'll be happy to get back with you. All of our information can be found on the website, or if you just want to email admissions, we can then direct your email as appropriate. So thank you all so much for joining us. You have a big decision to make, but we hope that you will choose to be a part of the Washington University community. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you again.